Here we are making a guide, and I'll demonstrate how to fix all of these intersections from a different software. Now I'm going to be using all of this data to make a guide in Blenderfordental. So go to the sleeves for other systems. We're going to select them all, and we're going to then select the edge loops using Shift Alt left click, and we cover this in our tutorial. Once we've got that, we're going to make our cylinders. Make sure that they extrude into the model and not away from the model. So select the top face and flip it. Next, we're going to take one of these cylinders, click on the edit cylinder clearance. Now we don't want to make the hole much bigger. 0.01, which is 10 microns. Select the top of it, and then create your sleeve, scale it and then also in the Z direction. Make sure this time you don't intersect them. So SZ to make it a bit smaller. Then we're going to do the same with the next one. Find your hole cutters. You can find them over there with that button that I've just clicked, and do the exact same thing over again. Make sure you don't get them intersecting this time. Okay. Now these have all timing notches, but in this case I don't know what the timing of the rotations are. And then I'm going to just fast forward. Next thing is we want to make a model so that we can print a model. Here in the model designer we follow the exact same steps to make our model. And we're going to extrude this into a model. I've just deleted the color, and we're going to then block it out. Alright, in the block out module, this is your lower, create an offset model. I'll make it a bit smaller, 0.15. Voxel thickness, I'm making a bit more precise at 0.15. Go to the survey. If you don't want to use a widget, use those sliders on the side here. Alright, from there on, just look and see where your undercuts are to tilt the model correctly, and then create your passive model. Then the voxel thickness, I'll put 0.15, and we're going to make our passive model. Excellent. From here, we're going to go to the guide, make sure it is called target model, and we're going to paint on a layer. Now, painting on has its advantages because we can make really fantastic designs, and we can also take away, so we can add and we can take away, and thereby saving time on making holes later through the guide. So what I'm doing is I'm going to expose my other original model and hide my passive model. Then I get a good view of the sulcus areas and see how far I can paint this down onto the model. Great. So once that's done, we're going to take away a little bits and pieces. So here, click on the minus sign and just dab it, and it'll make a hole. We're going to just add a little bit more on the one side and give it a little bit strength on the other side. Click on accept layer, and then we're going to briefly smooth this layer. The reason why we're smoothing is because we want to get a good geometry for printing. So when you click on exit, it'll automatically remesh your layer. In this next section, we're going to go to the finishing, expose your guide cutters and your hole cutters. Now the idea is to clear away the excess. However, we want to make sure that these sleeves are covered. Go into edit mode, proportional editing, and move that outwards so that we can encapsulate these blue sleeves. This is the beauty about Blender. We can manipulate these meshes any way we like, and then exit. Then I'll hit the smooth button and then exit and then voxel remesh it. So this is the layer that we are going to work on. Expose your guide cutters. The idea of this is to scale these outwards a little bit to ensure that we can clear away the guide. What I'm looking at is the lingual side, and then we can do one cut and it'll clear it away. Not so much on the labial side. So select your layer and then clear around with the guide cutters like that. Now let us focus on the hole cutters. Expose them. I'm going to scale them a wee bit. And then select your layer and then cut the holes with the hole cutters. Following this, we're going to cut out the fitting surface. Make sure not to use your original model. Use the pink model, the blocked out passive model to do that. Make sure it's called target model and the other one's called layer, and then just select an objects and cut fitting surface. So this is what we have now. Alright, go to the model designer, and we're not going to be using the lasso because sometimes it takes a bit long to do. So put your cursor down, select your object, shift right click to place your cursor like that, and click on vertex cutting, and then extrude this line across like that. Make a slice and then accept that, and that will slice right through it, and it's very quick to use. Next we're going to do the other few sections and follow exactly the same way to do it. Now how to get rid of them? Separate your object and delete those little bits and pieces. Right in the beginning I told you about the intersections over here. So it can be a good idea to clear those away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale one of the guide cutters to a correct length, diameter. We're going to use the object being cut, put your dropper down and cut that object. And we're going to do the same for the others. Again, scale the one that you want to use as a cutting tool, select the one that you want to cut, put the dropper down and cut it. So this gives you a good clear way for the surgery. And then simply select all of them, file export STL, and send it to your printer. So here we're going to be using the duplicate model. Go to the model designer and delete the base. Shift right click to place the cursor and use the vertex cutting. E to extrude. Then Shift D to duplicate, E to extrude, E to extrude, and then make a slice. Following that, we're going to accept and then separate your objects and discard the pieces that you don't want. Great. Following that, we go to the wax up module. Alright, navigate down to the temporary section and make a temporary shell. Accept that, it's going to voxel remesh it to make it print worthy. I'm going to briefly smooth those edges just a little bit. Then exit. Finally, we want to pierce through the holes. Go back to the guide module. This one I don't need to see anymore. Use your guide cutters and scale them accordingly. Now here we ideally want them as the diameter to be a little bit bigger than the temporary abutments, which I don't have at the moment. Then we're going to unlock the Z direction. I'll demonstrate why, because they don't go through. So for each guide cutter, I want you to unlock the Z direction and pull it down by the arrow. Now we're going to be missing a piece over there. In edit mode, I will pull it out a little bit. Now this will then fit over the tissue, the gum. After surgery, you fill this up with acrylic, and then you'll also get a nice fit as well. Okay, go to the guide module. These are guide cutters, and then select object and use all guide cutters. And here we go. This is our temporary shell, our eggshell temps.